Welcome back, everybody, to The Agenda with the Missoula County Commissioners. I'm Josh Slotnick, and I'm here with my friend and fellow Commissioner Dave Strohmeyer. Juan couldn't join us today, but we have our very own Jackson Lee, who's the manager of Marshall Mountain Park, and he's here to talk to us about what's been going on at the park. Relatively new thing, and now quickly becoming part of Missoula culture.
Has it been a year since we took ownership of this?
A year and a half.
A year and a half, how time flies. So what has happened in that past year and a half, Jackson?
Yeah, we'll get you up to speed. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And that's a great hat that you have. It says Marshall Mountain Park with this kind of
Super
retro
cool
logo.
Yeah. We're keeping the old retro logo, the colors. All the marketing's done for Marshall Mountain.
It feels like that kind of 70s ski culture.
Yeah, that's a great legacy piece that we have thanks to previous owners of Marshall Mountain.
Actually, today both Dave and I are wearing neon onesies. No one can see it, but we're here.
Right. Go Warren Miller ski film.
We are straight up. It's 1978 at Lake Placid, folks. It's perfect.
Well, yeah, I'd love to get you up to speed on what's going on up at Marshall Mountain Park, Missoula County's only mountain adventure park.
I like that.
And so I could provide a little site context of where Marshall Mountain is as well.
Yes, please do.
So it's a 480-acre park. It sits between the communities of East Missoula and Bonner West Riverside, and it's owned and operated by Missoula County in partnership with the city of Missoula. And generations of Missoulians learned to ski at Marshall. And the great part about the evolution of the mountain is now generations of kids are learning to mountain bike up there, and there's so many other uses we'll get in today too. But the legacy of learning up at Marshall is very alive and well. And so that'll be a piece we want to touch on today. It's been an important part of why it was acquired and much of what our schedule looks like up at Marshall Mountain throughout the year.
So I guess just in terms of the physical park itself, what needed to happen before any expansion or anything, any new programming occurred? Just lay it out there for us.
And it wasn't a blank slate either.
Yeah, so the ski resort, commercial ski operation last season was 2003. And so when they shut the doors that season, much of the infrastructure just remained in place. And so over that last 20 years before there was public acquisition, there was still a lot of community investment and interest in the space. And so there was actually informal public recreation going on at Marshall for much of the last 20 years since its closure. And what we saw with that is you had the goodwill of previous landowners, the Doring family, Five Valleys Land Trust, Izzy Dog, all having a space there that the community could still use for recreation. And so a lot of the story of Marshall after publicly acquiring in 2024 is just a continued use of the site by the public. But the upside of public ownership for us is now that we can assure that what has made Marshall so great for so many years, the learning opportunities, the recreation opportunities, are now there in perpetuity. So that was a huge part for us. But as to the infrastructure, a lot of that sat dormant for the last 20 years. And so the buildings are in fairly poor shape. But I think part of that history and the decay that we see up at Marshall, there's opportunity with Friends of Marshall Mountain to make improvements at the base area and try to match the infrastructure with the use we're seeing up at the site. But there's also an interpretive element, an ability to recreate at an old ski area is a pretty cool thing. And so we see a lot of interest by the community in the old lift and the lift towers, as well as the remnants of back in the heyday when it was a ski area.
Josh, this guy's glass is half full.
Absolutely.
With decay comes opportunity. That's what I heard. Yes.
I love it. Hey, we're going to spread that message far and wide. Decay equals opportunity. So in preparation for this, Dave, I did deep research.
Okay.
My wife Kim yesterday. We rode up Marshall Mountain.
Oh, and you're still walking today.
I'm still all limbs intact.
Yes,
we rode the Izzy up.
Izzy up.
Yeah, and then took Hello Kitty down to the road and then took the road back to the base area. And I just wanted to compliment you, Jackson, for real newbies like ourselves in terms of real mountain biking. Great signage. The paths were in fantastic shape. Everything was easy to navigate and was as advertised in terms of people like us could use this route to get to the top and use these routes to get to the bottom. It was great. So in terms of benefits of a park, this could have just been informal recreation until some private landowner said, no, I'm going to close the doors. This was way better than informal recreation in that trails were not overgrown. I didn't need to consult All Trails and Onyx and make sure I was in the right spot and then maybe potentially catch myself in a position where I couldn't bike down safely. Yeah. Trail maps were accurate. Everything was as advertised. And also, this is kind of added bonus and just what you'd expect in Missoula. Ran into people along the way who were all friendly and helpful and happy to be there with this kind of celebratory air about the place. Was quite a wonderful experience.
That's fantastic, Josh. And yeah, it's a testament, I think, to what's happened since public ownership and the level of partnership that's up at Marshall Mountain. So the trails you're riding on, we have an agreement in place with the Missoula Mountain Bike Coalition, and that group's been pivotal in constructing and maintaining trails at Marshall, but also throughout the Missoula Valley. And so as an example, in the first year of public ownership, Missoula Mountain Bike Coalition received a grant award from the state to we constructed over 5 miles of new beginner adaptive friendly trails. Not only was the mountain acquired, but then we had a project queued up that same year that delivered on the highest accessibility priority of the master plan. And so those trails, when I say beginner adaptive friendly, what that means is the specifications for those trails, they're wider, the grades are more accommodating for more users. And we've been working with Missoula Adaptive Recreation and Sports. They partnered with the Bike Coalition on design of those trails. And so it's been this really great win for Marshall, which for a long time had a lot of intermediate to advanced mountain biking use. And now these trails not only round out the mountain bike offerings, but they're the Izzy Up trail that you were on is a multi-use trail and bike uphill only. And so there's some ways that we've been able to expand what users are out at Marshall very early on in the story of public ownership.
I really appreciated the bike uphill only.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to bike uphill, right? So your head is down, sweat all over the place, and just grinding it out without fear that somebody's going to come around the corner going 40 miles an hour and I'm going to have to figure out where to go. So I really appreciated that feature.
You skipped a step as well. You went down Hello Kitty.
Yes.
Mission to Mars is our easiest trail.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one I'm going to go on.
So I have to say, we got to the top, and there were 2 dudes and this one woman who I was describing to you earlier, clad like she was ready for battle, but she was just going down headwall. And said, hey, do you have any recommendations? We're going to do Mission to Mars, but what do you think? And all up there said, oh, you'll like Hello Kitty better. If you could get here, fine, you'll be able to do that. And it was wonderful. Kind of the vibe of the place, friendly, collaborative. It was awesome.
That's great.
So you mentioned kids. What's the kid situation at Marshall?
Yeah, so some of it ties directly into the trails you were on. So, yeah, to sum it up, youth programs are an integral part of Marshall, and they've been that way for, generations and decades now. The Learn to Ski School at Marshall, like every other contractor we run into, learned to ski at Marshall
My
Mountain.
son learned to ski there.
Right. There's this great nostalgia, I think, for Marshall that comes from that. But what we've seen is it didn't go away. It's just been an evolution. And so in the last several years, some groups locally have really stepped up. So you have the Derailers program through City of Missoula Parks and Recreation, which is elementary age kids learning how to mountain bike. And then you also have this skills progression with programs like the Rangers and Missoula Mammoths that allow that elementary age derailers to graduate up. And they get to do all of this at their home mountain, which has been their home mountain for years now, Marshall Mountain. So that's a huge part of the success of the Marshall story and part of the legacy piece that we're carrying forward. The other side of it is outside of mountain biking. There's been these great extensions since public ownership of more diverse as well as just more youth programming in general. So we'll have a running club, trail running club up there this fall. And then Meg Witcher with City Parks and Recreation programming. You have the Derailers program that she runs, but throughout the summer, and it's a huge upside for us in terms of like the entertainment throughout the day. There's summer camps going on up at Marshall. So Meg and her programs through City Parks and Recreation bring over 2,000 youth participants up to Marshall a year.
Wow. Yeah. So Jackson, I think you are kind of hitting on this already, but not infrequently have I gotten the question, we have thousands upon thousands of acres of public land surrounding us here. Why did we need to invest in this particular portion of the landscape and bring it into public ownership and all that goes with that?
Marshall is a really unique recreation offering, and that's I'll talk both in terms of winter and then non-winter uses. So you did have, since the ski area closed, this emergence of mountain biking, certainly being our prevailing use there in the summer. And often we get questions about, why is that important? Well, in Missoula County, it's the only place with a sanctioned bike-specific trail network. And so what we really see is Marshall Mountain is the hub for the mountain biking community. And then in the winter side, and I want to dispel a myth out there, which there is still remains a lot of winter use up at Marshall Mountain.
That's good to know.
And the backcountry ski and snowboarding community, one of our partners in the Winter Montana Backcountry Alliance, they were really involved in demonstrating how important that was during the acquisition process. And what makes Marshall unique for the winter community is the backdrop is a ski area. And so they utilize those old legacy runs. And Marshall, throughout its history, there's a slogan on a poster that says "Minutes, not miles away." And that was always a key piece for Marshall and remains a key piece today, is its proximity, not only to the city, but we're talking, between East Missoula and Bonner West Riverside.
Minutes, not miles.
I think why that rings true for folks is its proximity to town. It's why it was successful with night skiing. People could peel away, go there after work. And we see the same recreation trends today is people really use Marshall as part of their daily life. We see people taking laps with their mountain bike before and after work, and we see the same thing on the winter side as well. And so I think, Dave, to your question about why it's important for the community, is it's an integral part of people's daily lives here. So for the general recreating public, that's a very important piece. And it's year-round, all-season use. This past winter was a really great snow year, and we had winter use rivaling summer use. And so that parking lot on a good ski day is reminiscent of when it was a ski area.
Oh, that's amazing.
Which is really great to see. And the other upside of Marshall, I think from a recreation perspective, is the approachability of the terrain for winter users. So a lot of people learn how to backcountry ski or snowboard up at Marshall Mountain, but you also don't need to go uphill to have a great time at Marshall. So there's a lot to do at the base area, especially in the winter. We have sledding that happens at the base. We have community events. Our park ranger, Silas Phillips, which I think has been one of the greatest things we've done in the last year and a half, is hire Silas.
Nice.
And he's just this kinetic force of goodness and kindness and has really great interactions with people up there. So he started to host events. In the winter, he's had, there's a fire pit at the base, and after people are done skiing, they come down and gather.
Oh, that's so good.
And then in the summers, we've been having newbie nights, which is this opportunity to get more people up the hill to hike or to mountain bike.
Is there like a scheduled series to these newbie nights, or does it just kind of organically happen?
Yeah, he just finished 2 of them, and we're probably looking at doing more.
What were they like?
They're great. We had new users to the park. I was there for the mountain biking night. I'm a beginner myself with mountain biking.
Right.
So they've been a great way to get more people up to Marshall Mountain, awareness around that it's publicly owned. But we also have so many great outside programs that are also hosting beginner clinics up there, which I think goes back to why it's important in the community. Is it's the most accessible space to mountain bike within Missoula County. It's also the most easy to learn the backcountry ski there. There's all these opportunities that start at Marshall Mountain that are focused on beginner and new users.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm throwing more compliments your way. I really appreciate the no dogs and no e-bikes, and that isn't because I'm anti-dog or anti-e-bike. It's because when biking there, I knew that I wasn't going to have those conflicts, and I'm really appreciative that there's a place where someone, at least at my skill level, could really focus on biking, not worried that I was going to round the corner and be face-to-face with an Australian Shepherd running the wrong way.
Sure.
Which would cause us both harm, right? And the same thing with the e-bikes, too. God bless e-bikes for all kinds of reasons, but it was great that I didn't have to run into folks on e-bikes going the opposite way or zipping past me at 40 miles an hour.
Glad you highlighted both of those today, because when we're talking about new use and what to expect when you're up there. Those are 2 of the core rules right now. And I think the no dogs piece for us, that's a best practice for its really high use space for skiing and biking. And so the speed of travel and then
just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's very challenging in that way. And we hear that feedback, which you just said, which is people enjoy the freedom from in some ways at Marshall. It's a different recreation experience. And there's so many places within the valley.
I was just going to say that. It's one. I mean, I have 2 dogs. I was making fun of my own dogs there, actually. And the fact that you can go to Blue Mountain and have your dog just run wild under voice control, or at the DNRC, it's great. There are places to do this.
There are plenty of places to step in dog poop.
Yes, plenty of places to step in dog poop. But it's good that there are places where you can just focus on your bicycling without concern of having a dog conflict.
Yeah, absolutely. The e-bike question's interesting. We have a proposal that Missoula Mountain Bike Coalition submitted to consider Class 1, so pedal assist e-bike use at Marshall Mountain. And we haven't made any decision at the Missoula County level yet, so currently no e-bikes allowed at Marshall. What we're finding is even the the position of the coalition has shifted over the years. Where looking at Class 1 e-bike use, if we were to look at anywhere in Missoula Valley, it may make the most sense at Marshall Mountain. And so we're starting to take steps. We have a visitor use study underway with the University of Montana.
Oh, she handed me a GPS unit yesterday, and I dropped it off in the bucket on my way back down. Abby,
you'll be on the heat map.
Yeah. She was like, look at those old people pedal slowly. Looks like the tall one's getting strokey.
So, Jackson, you talked a little bit about the trail work that's been done up there, and there's certainly a whole array of programming that you've mentioned. There's also the broader landscape itself and just land management work that I know is going on up there in terms of vegetation management and such. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd love to. Part of the acquisition package, the funding to purchase Marshall Mountain, was community forest funding through the United States Forest Service. And so that allowed us to not only help to acquire the property, but a requirement of that funding is to do a community forest plan. So in the first year of ownership of Marshall, we now have a community forest plan in place. That was done back in the summer of 2024. And really exciting to announce that we're going to implement the first phase of that forestry work up at Marshall starting here in September.
Fantastic.
So this project, it's thanks in large part to the Missoula County Wildfire Program, who had a DNRC Forest Action Plan grant that we were then able to use up at Marshall to implement this first phase of forestry work. So the project scope is about 65 acres. It has, improving forest health, it has lowering wildfire risk, and then the kicker, the third piece, is it also improves the winter recreation experience. And the treatment area is the highest priority treatment area in the forest plan, which is coincidentally the legacy ski runs and adjacent to those. So we'll be able, 3 key goals that we'll be able to hit on of the forest plan within this first phase. And what it will lead to in the winter is more skiable space, but also a healthier forest. And hopefully safer summers.
Josh, I don't know if you knew, but as a cost-cutting measure, Juanita, you and I will be doing the chainsaw work.
That's great. I'm ready to go. If you were to look out 5 years from now, and you had your way, and I know that you've got grants pending out there, and the grant landscape has changed a lot in the recent past, but if everything went your way, what would Marshall look like in 5 years, and in such that in a way that's different than it looks right now?
Yeah, Josh, I think one piece of the Marshall story, and we've been set up so well in terms of looking at the acquisition process, looking at the support from partners that we have, and then honestly the legacy of the place really makes my job and Silas's job a lot easier. And so when we forecast out 5 years, a key piece of that is Friends of Marshall Mountain. And that's this core group of 5 people that have been really involved. They formed out during the acquisition process, but they've stayed really involved following. And they've fundraised a tremendous amount of money. And
so these are 5 in the core group, but the full group is probably in the hundreds.
I should ask them about their membership. They've got their 5 members, but I think anyone can be a friend of Marshall Mountain.
Yeah.
So many other folks that are involved in the group, just in terms of providing financial support, but also in terms of just being interested in Marshall Mountain and ensuring that it was a place the public could go in perpetuity, which has been a huge part of their story. Their acronym is FOAM. When we look at FOAM's work, we're trying to be good stewards of the work they've done and the funding they've been able to secure. And so we're looking at grant funding now that would hopefully lead to the base area being redeveloped, and to have the base area redevelopment better match the recreation needs and uses we're seeing up there now. So that's our main goal around fundraising and grant writing right now, is to secure those improvements at the base area, as well as in support with the support of the Missoula Mountain Bike Coalition, rounding out the trails that are in the master plan, the early phase trails.
Some more trails, too.
There's one more trail coming online this year, which is a new double black diamond technical trail. Probably your next trail,
Yeah,
Josh.
Dave and I think would be. I need some height, or jumps are important.
Yeah, jumps are important.
So what do the foreseen base improvements look like?
Yeah, to distill it down at the base, we want to have shade,
yes,
drinking water. Those are the 2 core ones that come up most often, especially with the amount of youth programming up there. We want to make sure we get those back online. But renovated lawn space is another piece we're looking at. Trailhead facility improvements. So you would have trailhead kiosks, but we would also want to have Forest Service style vault toilet up there. And so really just trying to better match the amount of use we see up at Marshall, which is a tremendous amount of use. We're seeing, so 2023, to give you a sense, there was an average of 75 users per day at Marshall.
Wow.
And then our peak is in May at 150 users per day. But we think those numbers are already on the rise. We've added new trail. We're improving the winter experience. And hopefully with the base area, not only can we support the use we have happening already, but we can foster more use up at Marshall.
Nice.
I think for a long time, the base area was a place that people congregated. Missoulians, folks from East Missoula, Bonner West Riverside, it was this hub of all-season outdoor space for folks to use. And so with the base area redevelopment project, trying to bring those core improvements back online so that people don't necessarily have to venture up the mountain to have a really good experience up at Marshall.
And if I remember it, there's been quite a few events up there as well.
Yeah, that's a great piece of it. Even with the aging infrastructure, event promoters, youth programs, they make do, and they have these really high octane fun events. So as an example, the Missoula XC is this signature event at Marshall, which is national, international mountain biking race as far as the draw, and it's organized locally by MTCX. And that event has been going on for a long time up at Marshall now.
Where do they ride on the mountain?
They have a short course and then a longer course that they do up at the mountain. I think it changes a bit each year, but generally it's this spectacle that takes over Marshall for about 2 to 3 days of racing each year.
Wow.
And it's been a really important part of the history of the place. The XC races really started to galvanize the interest around trail development at Marshall back in the 2010s. And that's put us in a really good position now with where we're at with the trail system at Marshall. So outside of the XC, the other piece, and I think this goes to why public ownership is important up at Marshall, is we've seen, because people are aware that it's publicly owned, we've had people reach out with new event opportunities up at Marshall. So Mike Foote, who puts on Run the Rut, that race series, he started the Marshall Mountain Revival up here, which the first year, it was this year in May, and they had 250 runners up at Marshall. A lot of those folks may be up there for the first time running on trails, and the timing was great in that we had the running race when the new trails had been constructed. So now we get feedback from folks with Run Wild Missoula and others that they're using that as a space just for their morning or evening runs now too. So the events up there are a huge part, I think, of the culture of Marshall.
Great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So if folks want to learn more about Marshall Mountain, I should know this, but is there a web page or some place to access information?
Yeah, there is a web page, marshallmountain.com.
Okay.
Missoula County owns the domain now, which has been an improvement since the last year. And then the other piece, and I think if you really want to get tapped in to what's happening at Marshall Mountain, go to the Instagram page at Marshall Mountain Park. Because Silas, the park ranger, he posts trail reports, snow reports on there. We cross-post events and programs coming up at Marshall. So he's a really good steward of that hub of Marshall Mountain communications.
Awesome. Great.
Anything that we should ask you
we
didn't?
What did we miss, or something you want to talk about around Marshall that we haven't hit on yet?
One of my favorite parts about Marshall is we certainly have this really strong enthusiasm around the mountain biking community up there, and it's growing, and it serves as this great place for that use, and there's so many partners that are really making that work. And I think we highlighted some of them today and just really appreciate what they do up there. I think the other piece that Silas and I like to do when we're up there is really get a sense of who's using the place. We mentioned backcountry skiing and snowboarding. We have freestyle skiing and snowboarding. I think like small jumps and rails. We call them the gremlins. They usually take over the base area in the winter. This year was a great year for huckleberries. You have foraging up at Marshall. I've seen folks use the place for orienteering, environmental education, trail running, hiking. So I think it continues to be what it has been for a long time, which is this space that's utilized by a lot of our community. And I think a good example of that is we have from the 2022-2023 study, we have a fairly good sense as to East Missoula and Bonner West Riverside residents, their use of Marshall. And so East Missoula, they visit at 6 times the per capita rate for a Missoula County resident. Wow. And then for Bonner West Riverside, it's double our average visitation for Missoula County residents. So it's really still what I think is important about that stat is it's demonstrating that it's still important to those closest to the mountain.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, what a public-private partnership success story.
Yeah.
Great work, Jackson.
Oh, thank you.
We're very appreciative you've chosen to do this with your time.
And Jackson, as you might know, part of our tradition is allowing our guests the opportunity to share some bit of inspiration, nugget of wisdom, good book, a piece of culture that you've run across that you think others might have some interest in. So take it away.
What do you got? Anything.
Anything.
I live in fear of the book question because I start books but don't finish them.
Well, you are in very good company.
I think I've started The River Why about 6 times, and I should just rename my copy.
Why not?
Why
The
read
River
it?
Why bother?
Why not? Why bother?
But I think a nugget of wisdom
There we
also
go.
related to fly fishing. So I live out at the confluence, Clark Fork and Rock Creek, and the household's been getting into mousing this summer.
Oh, man.
You all know what mousing is as far
For
as
like
fly
brown
fishing
trout?
goes? Yeah.
Yeah.
Brown
Better
trout.
describe what that is.
Okay, so it's a really impractical. It's even more impractical than fly fishing.
Wow.
Yeah. So what you do is you go out at night. You go out at dusk or in the pitch black with a fly pattern that looks like a mouse, and you cast it out there, and you inevitably snag so many times. But sometimes you get it out there, and the goal is to catch a big brown trout or one of these larger Montana trout. And so you're out there at odd hours of the night. I find it to be really fun.
All right.
But the nugget of wisdom is, and I'm not a licensed fishing professional, so take a grain of salt.
This isn't actual fishing advice.
Okay,
It's just
okay.
fishing conversation.
I've heard smaller the sip, the bigger the fish on a mouse pattern.
What does that mean?
So as I understand it, if a fish were to come up for the mouse pattern and slash the top of the water, that's actually a smaller fish than if it would slowly come up for that mouse. And the idea is being a larger fish would need to put less effort into eating a mouse.
Okay.
So have you ever caught a fish doing this?
No, never caught a fish doing this. It's a totally futile pursuit.
So given those words of wisdom, is there some wisdom to be taken from this as a metaphor?
God, I don't know. What do you have, Josh?
So I don't know if the bigger you are, the less hard you have to try. Is that what it is? Is that what's going on here?
I feel like I should finish. I should finish The River Why, and I'd probably know.
Or is it the bigger they are, the harder they fall kind of thing?
I don't know.
I think there's a
All good
limerick to be
questions.
had here. Yeah. Well,
But actually, I'm going to go deeper. I think there's something much more to be said for pursuits that look on the outside like they are about results. Like you get back to your house and your person says, "Well, did you catch a fish?" And you say, "No," and I had a great night.
Yeah.
but I got a couple good sips.
There you go. Better to sip than be drunk.
Thanks, Jackson. We appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, thanks for all your work.
Oh, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
You bet.
See you soon. Thanks for listening to The Agenda. If you enjoy these conversations, it would mean a lot if you'd rate and review the show on whichever podcast app you use.
And if you know a friend who would like to keep up with what's happening in local government, be sure to recommend this podcast to them.
The Agenda with the Missoula County Commissioners is made possible with support from Missoula Community Access Television, better known as MCAT, and our staff in the Missoula County Communications Division.
If you have a question or a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email it to communications@missoulacounty.us.
To find out other ways to stay up to date with what's happening in Missoula County, go to missoula.co/county updates.
Thanks for listening.